Okay, so we're on chapter 4. Who has won to mastership? Have you all got the book open? And Eleanor, you are first to read. You were first here, first to speak to me, first to say hello. So if you would like to start reading whenever you're ready, unless anybody, has anybody got any questions first? I know it's been a week and a bit since we last read. It's been, well, 2 weeks since we last read, so. Okay, I can see green wavy lines, but I can't hear you, Eleanor. Can anybody hear
Yes,
Eleanor? Oh, there
because
you
I'm
are. Good.
waiting. You asked for a question, so I was waiting.
Oh, okay, that's all right. No, I could see, but it was strange because I could see some little wavy lines above your head as if you were
Yes,
speaking.
because I have turned my mic on when I'm
Oh,
preparing,
okay,
of course.
okay. Well, there have been no questions forthcoming, so I can only presume everybody's happy. In which case,
Okay.
Eleanor, when you're ready, just start reading.
What I say, I speak true when I say that back to Davis. This was Francois' speech next morning when he discovered Speed's missing and back covered with wounds. He drew him to the fire and by its light pointed them out. That Speed's fight like hell, said Perrault as he surveyed the gaping ribs and cuts. And that back fight like to health, was Francois' answer. And now we make good time. No more speeds, no more trouble, sure. While Perrault packed the camp outfit and loaded the sled, the dog driver proceeded to harness the dogs. Buck trotted up to the place Spitz would have occupied as leader, but Francois, not noticing him, brought Solex to the coveted position. In his judgment, Solex was the best lead dog left. Buck sprang upon Solex in a fury, driving him back and standing in his place. Ah, Francois cried, slapping his thighs gleefully. Look at that Buck. Him kill that Spitz. Him think to take the job. Get away, Hook, he cried back, but Buck refused to budge. He took Buck by the scruff of the neck, and though the dog growled threateningly, dragged him to one side and replaced Solex. The old dog did not like it, and showed plainly that he was afraid of Buck. Francois was obdurate, but when he turned his back again displaced Solex, who was not at all unwilling to go. Francois was angry. Now, by God, I fix you, he cried, coming back with a heavy club in his hand. Buck remembered the man in the red sweater and retreated slowly, nor did he attempt to charge in when Solex was once more brought forward. But he circled just beyond the range of the club, snarling with bitterness and rage, and while he circled, he watched the club so as to dodge it if thrown by Francois, for he was become wise in the way of clubs. The driver went about his work, and he called to Buck when he was ready to put him in his old place in front of Dave. Buck retreated 2 or 3 steps. Francois followed him up, whereupon he again retreated. After some time of this, Francois threw down the club, thinking that Buck feared a thrashing. But Buck was in open revolt. He wanted not to escape a clubbing, but to have the leadership. It was his by right. He had earned it, and he would not be content with less. Perrault took a hand. Between them they ran him about for the better part of an hour. They threw clubs at him. He dodged. They cast him and his fathers and mothers before him, and all his seed to come after him down to the remotest generation, and every hair on his body and drop of blood in his veins. And he answered curse with snare, and kept out of their reach. He did not try to run away, but retreated around and around the camp, advertising plainly that when his desire was met, he would come in and be good. Francois sat down and scratched his head. Perrault looked at his watch and swore. Time was flying, and they should have been on the trail an hour gone. Francois scratched his head again. He shook it and grinned sheepishly at the courier, who shrugged his shoulders in sign that they were beaten. Then Francois went up to where Solek stood and called to Buck. Buck laughed as dogs laugh, yet kept his distance. Francois unfastened Solek's traces and put him back in his old place. The team stood harnessed to the sled in an unbroken line, ready for the trail. There was no place for Buck save at the front. Once more Francois called, and once more Buck laughed and kept away. "Throw down the club," Perrault commanded. Francois complied, whereupon Buck trotted in, laughing triumphantly, and swung around into position at the head of the team. His traces were fastened, the sled broken up, and with both men running, they dashed out on the river trail. Highly as the dog driver had valued Buck, with his 2 Debbies, he found, while the day was yet young, that he had undervalued. At a bound, Buck took up the duties of leadership, and where judgment was required, and quick thinking and quick acting, he showed himself the superior, even of speeds, of whom Francois had never seen an equal. But it was in giving the law and making his mates live up to it that Buck excelled. Dave and Solek did not mind the change in leadership. It was none of their business. Their business was to toil, and toil mightily in the traces, so long as that were not interfered with. They did not care what happened. Billy, the good-natured, could lead for all they cared, so long as he kept order. The rest of the team, however, had grown unruly during the last days of Spitz, and their surprise was great now that Buck proceeded to lick them into shape.
Very good. Well done.
Okay.
Yeah. Lick them into shape. I love it.
No alarm clock.
No. I've given up on the alarm clock. It wasn't April's favourite thing. It used to terrify April, if you remember. So now you have to put up with me.
Yes.
It's still there. It's still on my desk, but no alarm clock. No, I don't want to give anybody a heart attack. Anyhow, very nicely read. Well done. And just a couple of little words. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The first one, circled. You've got to get to circle. He circled round. Yeah, so you've got to get the d at the end, of course. Circled. Try it.
Circled.
Yes,
Is
good.
it better?
Much
Okay.
better. Yeah.
Thrashing.
And thrashing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Thrashing.
Make sure
Yeah.
you get. Yeah, exactly. It's the
Yeah.
sound. Otherwise,
I
it sounds
know.
like trashing. And to be honest,
Yeah.
trashing's become a verb now. Trash talk, and to trash something. So trashing is a word, but thrashing is what was actually, to beat somebody. Okay, so thrashing with a th. And then
Thrashing.
the next one, I'm being a little fussy, but if you have a listen to the recording, old. It's an O sound.
Old.
Yeah. So old, yeah. It's just me being fussy because your English is so good. So I've got to find something to correct. But if you listen, you'll find that you don't say the O sound very well. Old. Okay.
I will hear
Yeah.
bit of a sentence. That's my problem.
Okay, and the next
My knowledge
one.
is theoretical.
Yeah. It's just you know your own little foibles when you're speaking and reading, and I know that when you see the word on its own you can pronounce it perfectly, but if you listen to it in the sentence you're going back to a couple of older problems with the word. Okay, anyhow, it's the accent, yeah, but it's also, as I say, it's not purely that, because when you give Xanthippe
Well, that's it. It's
the
not
word on its
accent. It's
own,
simply
yeah,
phonetic mistake.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's just, but it crops up. It only crops up when you're reading in a sentence, because you're concentrating on maybe the next word or the word after that, and then it comes back. So it's worth just repeating these words until your brain accepts. I'm reading English now. I'm going to say old, not old. Hello, tough guy. Nice to see you. Okay, the next one. I've lost my text. Oh, yeah. Just this
Answered.
part of the phrase. Answered curse with snarl. So make sure you get the arl, snarl, and kept out of their reach. Okay? So answered curse with snarl and kept out of their reach. Try it.
Okay, I will try. Answered case with snarl and kept out of the reach.
Much better, much better. Again, if you listen to the recording, you'll hear what you said. And I thought, oh no, I can't let her get away with that one. Very good, well done. So, Shiny, you are the next to read. Any questions before I pass over?
Yes, Lynn.
Oh, yeah, go on.
I found it difficult to pronounce this one.
What word?
Where is it?
Can you type it up?
Something with ed ending. Drag, or is yeah.
Dragged.
How should I pronounce? Oh, that is good. Oh, I put it in the wrong place. Yeah, that one.
Dragged. No, it's not t, it's the d. It's got the duller sound. T is too sharp. So it's got the dull d. Okay, dragged.
Dragged.
Better, yes.
And then, yeah, I heard Emily said devil. Is that devil or devil?
It's okay. When I say it, I think it's in the that book, two devils. Now they might say divils because people do say that. Okay, but I tend to say devils. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
But because these guys speak in this sort of patois, but if you look it up, it is devil. But you do hear people say divil and devil. The correct phonetic pronunciation is devil. Do you want to have a go, Eleanor? Devil?
Devil.
Yay,
But,
perfect.
I always pronounce de because you corrected me once.
Once, just the once.
No, perhaps many times, but
Yeah.
some time ago. So.
Okay, so well spotted, April. Divil, yeah, divil is quite funny, but people do say it. It's not strictly wrong. It's just not standard. As you know, one of my favourite sayings now is non-standard English. There's nothing wrong with it, and as long as you know what they mean, that's the main thing. Okay, so Shiny, any other questions before I pass over the mic? Oh, okay, so Shiny, your turn.
Pike, who pulled that box heels and who never put an ounce more of his weight against the brass band than he was compelled to do, was swiftly and repeatedly shaken for it, laughing. And ere the first day was done, he was pulling more than ever before in his life. The first night in camp, Joe, the sore one, was punished roundly, a thing that Spitz had never succeeded in doing. Buck simply smothered him by virtue of superior weight and cut him up till he ceased snapping and began to whine for mercy. The general tone of the team picked up immediately. It recovered its old-time solidarity, and once more the dogs leaped as one dog in the traces. At the rink, rabbits, two native huskies, Tig and Kuna, were aided, and the severity with which Buck broke them in took away from Swart's breath. Never such a dog as that Buck, he cried. No, never him worth $1,000, by God, eh? What do you say, Peril? And Peril nodded. He was ahead of the record at them, and gaining day by day. The trail was in excellent condition, well packed and hard. There was no new fallen snow with which to contend. It was not too cold. The temperature dropped to 50 below zero and remained there the whole trip. The men rode and ran by turn, and the dogs were kept on the jump with but infrequent stoppages. The 30-mile river was comparatively coated with ice, and they covered in one day, going out what had taken them 10 days coming in. In one round, they made a 60-mile dash from the foot of Lake Deluge to the White Horse Rapids, across Marsh, Cottage, and Burnett. 70 miles of lakes. They flew so fast that the man whose turn it was to run pulled behind the sled at the end of the rope. And on the last night of the second week, they topped White Pass and dropped down the sea slope with the lights of and of the shipping at their feet. It was a record run. Each day for 14 days they had averaged 14 miles. For 3 days, Perrault and Francois threw chests up and down the main street of Scott and were deluged with invitations to drink, while the team was the constant center of the worshipful crowd of dogbusters and mushers. Then 3 or 4 Western batmen aspired to clean out the town, were riddled like paper boxes or their pens, and popular interest turned to other idols. Next came official orders. Francois called Buck to him, threw his arms around him, wept over him, and that was the last of Francois and Perrault. Like other men, they passed out of Buck's life for good. A Scotch half-breed took charge of him and his mates, and in company with a dozen other dog teams, he started back over the weary trail to Dawson. It was no light dawning now, nor record dawn, but a heavy toil, each day with a heavy load behind, for this was the mail train carrying word. from the world to the man who sought food under the shadow of the pool. Buck did not like it, but he brought up well to the work, taking pride in it after the manner of Dave and Solex, and seeing that his mates, whether they plighted in it or not, did their fair share. It was a monotonous life, operating with machine-like regularity. One day was very like another. At a certain time each morning the cooks turned out, fires were built, and breakfast was eaten. Then, while some broke camp, others punished the dogs, and they were underway an hour or so before the darkness fell, which gave warning of dawn. At night, camp was made. Some pitched the fires, others cut firewood and pine boats for the baits, and still others carried water or ice for the cooks. Also, the dogs were fed. To them, this was the one feature of the day, though it was good to loaf around. After the fish was eaten for an hour or so, with the other dogs, of which there were 50 and odd. There were fierce fighters among them, but 3 battles with the fiercest brought Buck to mastery, so that when he bristled and showed his teeth, they got out of his way.
Very
As the road,
good. Yep.
perhaps.
Okay. Stop. You're on a roll, aren't you? Excellent. Well done. Okay, so that's very nicely read and nice and clear. I hope that the recording is clear. April, I tried to do a sort of test, but it was practically impossible, by the way, doing it on live stream. And then trying to listen to people read, but trying to listen to the live stream, it doesn't work. It was a catastrophe. I nearly lost my connection, so I think we're just going to have to cross our fingers as ever. You wish it weren't clear? You mean you hope it isn't clear? Yeah, I wish it wasn't clear. I hope it isn't clear. I wish it weren't clear. You can't say that yet because it hasn't happened yet. So you could say maybe I hope it hasn't been clear. What we need is somebody to watch the live stream and listen to it and then to report back to us as to whether it's clear or not. It's the only way it's going to work. I don't think I can do it otherwise. Okay, let's have a look at the words first. Okay, for Shiny. So, first one, shaken. What's your James Bond films? Shaken, not stirred. So, to shake, shaken.
Shaken.
Perfect. And the next one's a bit funny. It's a stoppage. So, stoppages.
Stoppages.
Yay! Something that happens during strikes, or if something goes wrong with a process, there's a stoppage. Things stop. Then the next one, it is a word. Of course it's a word. It is a name, but it is a common name, and we normally say Bennett. Bennett. Yay, good.
Bennett.
The next one, to deluge somebody with something. Deluged. Deluged with work. Try it.
Deluge.
Yeah, deluged. Now, deluged, yeah, okay, maybe Americans say it that way. But I tend to say it's a deluge, especially if it's raining heavily. We sometimes call that a deluge. But you can also be deluged with work. Next one's important, weary, not wary. Wary means suspicious of somebody, not willing to really engage with them, watching them because you think they might do something. And weary just means tired. So, women get weary. Weary. Try it.
Weary.
Yeah, better. And then if you do the same thing every day, again and again, it can get very monotonous.
Monotonous.
Yay, good. And the dogs are in the sled and they're harnessed. Harnessed to the sled.
Harnessed.
Very good. And then firewood is one word. Not firewood, just firewood.
Firewood.
Yeah. And then if you are very good at something, like your pronunciation, you gain a mastery of it. Mastery.
Mastery.
Good. And then you get 3 smileys. Look at this. Solidarity, breath and slope.
Slope.
Yeah. So say the 3. Solidarity, breath, slope.
Solidarity, breath, slope.
Very good. Now the next one is part of the sentence, so let's have a look. The sour one, not the sore one. Sore means something's painful, so you might have a sore paw after all that work. But sour, it means in a bad temper or just with a bad nature. If you're a sour person, you're just not a very nice person. So the sour one was punished roundly. Try it.
The sour one was punished roundly.
Very good. And then he was ahead of the record then.
He was ahead of the record then.
Yes. And you do have a problem with record. Okay. So, and I can, every time you kind of stopped and gave up. And you went, no, I'm not going to let you do that. So, if you think about it, the verb, if it's got to, or if it's got any verb form, it's to record. Okay? So we are recording this. Okay? And why do we record this? To keep a record. So try this sentence, learn this sentence. We record the sessions to keep a record. Okay?
We record the sessions to keep a record.
A record.
A record.
So if it's got the or a in front of it, it's the noun, and that means it's record. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, good. I know it's going to be a while. You need to practice. Okay, so, and one way to practice a word like that, where you've got the 2 spelt the same, but one's a verb and one's a noun and the pronunciation changes, is to just develop a short sentence using both and practice that until your brain has accepted it. Okay? We record the sessions to keep a record. Okay?
We record the sessions to keep a record.
Perfect. And I'm afraid you do have to do a little bit of drilling with it, but that's because you're retraining your brain in a way. You're kind of trying to reprogram your brain and your tongue. Anyway, well done. Well done. April! Okay, before I pass the mic, any questions?
Yes. To throw the chest. What is that thing? To throw chest.
To deliberately, normally it would mean, I'm going to have to, hang on a second, just bear with me so I can find my place again. So to throw a test, where does it say that? Can you type it up?
Chest. Throw chest.
Oh, throw a chest. Yeah, puffed up with their own self-importance. You know, if you're proud and you stand, especially men, yeah, and they stand up. Have you ever watched pigeons? When pigeons are being all, yay, look at me, I'm the biggest pigeon, they throw a chest, so they stand up and they're just basically being very proud and very, a bit showing off a little bit. I know, test, not chest. I was like, throw a test.
So what is then here in this context? Perrault and Francois threw chest up and down the main street of Skagway.
Yeah. So what they did was they walked up and down very proudly because they'd beaten the record. Okay, so they were going, they weren't hunched up and ashamed. They were very proud of the achievement, and so they walked up and down the street like they owned it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and pitch the flies. Is that to catch the flies?
Pitch the
Playing with
flies.
the flies.
To pitch. Okay, no, it means to. Okay, they're pitching. Can you remember when we did our? Oh, sorry, I've muted my mic. Remember when we did our camping sessions about camping? What do you do to a tent when you erect a tent?
Okay.
You pitch a
Is that the
tent.
flies?
To pitch a tent. And what have you got on a tent? You've got the flies of the tent, the flaps kind of thing. So they were pitching the tents. Okay.
I was thinking of
Of flies buzzing around. Well, that's why you should always ask. If you're not sure, ask. Because sometimes if you were thinking flies, that would make no sense. Because there aren't many flies when it's cold. So yeah, you got the fly of the tent. I think it's, if I remember my tent vocabulary, it's the front opening, the fly of the tent. I suppose because it keeps the flies out. I don't know. And remember, flies has more than one meaning of buzzy. You can have the flies on your trousers, the zip. We often call that the flies. Your fly's open doesn't mean you've got a fly. It means that the zip on your trousers is open. So yeah, context is very important. Do ask. Don't assume. If it doesn't seem to make sense, ask. So well done, April. Good question.
I always ask stupid questions.
They're not stupid. That was really important. If you had flies in your head, as I say, words paint pictures in your head. And you must have been very confused. Where did the bloody flies come from? Why is he going on about flies? What are they pitching them? Exactly. That's it, Shiny. April asks the questions. Everybody else is thinking but too afraid to ask. And you know me, if I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know. And then we'll ask Eleanor because she knows everything. Actually,
that's not true.
Oh, it is, because
like
you've pre-read it. You've pre-read it quite often. So, have you done an update, by the way?
Yes, I have.
Excellent. You'll need to share the link. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Okay, so
This lick into shape, I have found it.
lick into shape. Yeah, it's a great saying that. To lick. I need somebody to lick me into shape, to be honest, down at the gym. Okay, I'll put it onto the latest update. I'll put it into the thread as well. Okay, so April, it is actually your turn to read. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. We are on chapter 4. Is that right?
Chapter 4, yeah, from
Who has
Best of all,
watched it?
perhaps he loved to
Yeah.
lie near the fire. Okay?
Okay. Best of all, perhaps he loved to lie near the fire, hind legs crouched under him, forelegs stretched out in front, head raised, and eyes blinking dreamily at the flames. Sometimes he thought of Judge Miller's big house in the sun-kissed Santa Clara Valley, and of the cement swimming tank, and Isabel, the Mexican hairless, and Toots, the Japanese pug. But oftener he remembered the man in the red sweater, the death of Curly, the great fight with Spitz, and the good things he had eaten or would like to eat. He was not homesick. The sunland was very dim and distant, and such memories had no power over him. Far more potent were the memories of his heredity that gave things he had never seen before a seeming familiarity, the instincts which were but the memories of his ancestors become habits which had lapsed in later days and still later in him, quickened and become alive again. Sometimes as he crouched there, blinking dreamily at the flames, it seemed that the flames were of another fire, and that as he crouched by this other fire, he saw another and different man from the half-breed cook before him. This other man was shorter of leg and longer of arm, which, with muscles that were stringy and knotty rather than rounded and swelling. The hair of this man was long and matted, and his head slanted back under it from the eyes. He uttered strange sounds and seemed very much afraid of the darkness into which he peered continually, clutching in his hand, which hung midway between knee and foot, a stick with a heavy stone made fast to the end. He was all but naked, a ragged and fire-scorched skin hanging part way down his back, but on his body there was much hair. In some places across the chest and shoulders and down the outside of the arms and thighs, it was matted into almost a thick fur. He did not stand erect, but with trunk inclined forward from the hips on legs that bent at the knees. About his body there was a peculiar springiness or resiliency, almost cat-like, and a quick alertness as of one who lived in perpetual fear of things seen and unseen. At other times this hairy man squatted by the fire with head between his legs and slept. On such occasions his elbows were on his knees, his hands clasped above his head as though to shed rain by the hairy arms. Beyond that fire, in the circling darkness, Buck
Above.
could see many gleaming coals, 2 by 2, always 2 by 2, which he knew to be the eyes of great beasts of prey. And he could hear the crashing of their bodies through the undergrowth and the noises they made in the night. And dreaming there by the Yukon bank, with lazy eyes blinking at the fire, these sounds and sights of another world would make the hair to rise along his back and stand on end across his shoulders and up his neck, till he whimpered low and suppressedly, or growled softly, and the half-breed cook shouted at him, "Hey, you bat! Wake up!" Whereupon the other world would vanish and the real world come into his eyes, and he would get up and yawn and stretch as though he had been asleep. It was a hard trip, with the mail behind them, and the heavy work wore them down. They were short of weight and in poor condition when they made Dawson, and should have had a 10 days or a week's rest at least. But in today's time they dropped down the Yukon bank from the barracks, loaded with letters for the outside. The dogs were tired, the drivers grumbling, and to make matters worse, it snowed every day. This meant a soft trail, greater friction on the runners, and heavier filling for the dogs, yet the drivers will fare through it all and did their best for the animals. Each night the dogs were attended to first. They ate before the drivers ate, and no man sought his sleeping robe till he had seen to the feet of the dogs he drove. Still their strength went down. Since the beginning of the winter they had traveled 1,800 miles, dragging sleds the whole weary distance, and 1,800 miles will tell upon life of the toughest. Buck stood it, keeping his mates up to their work and maintaining discipline, though he, too, was very tired. Billy cried and whimpered regularly in his sleep each night. Joe was sourer than ever, and Solex was unapproachable, blind sides or other sides.
Very good. Well done.
But it was...
Yep, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so nicely read. You're going to kick yourself when you see the first word, but I'm going to challenge you to listen to the recording and see if I wasn't right. But when I heard it, I heard ice, not eyes. Okay, so ice has the softer s ending, and eyes has the z, the vibrating ending. Okay, so eyes. Try it.
Okay, eyes.
Yay. I know you know how, but have a listen to the recording, because I was like, oh, did I really hear that? I think I did. Then the next one, you actually...
You could be right this time.
I could be, I might be. Anyhow, the next one, it's the stress. So it's not potent, it's potent. Potent.
Potent.
Yeah, so if something's very strong, it's very potent. Okay, so a potent brandy, a strong brandy. Yum. Then the next one is, and I think you've got a problem with this, looking at the word after it as well. We say stingy, but stringy. Stringy.
Okay, stringy.
Yes, if something's stringy, it's thin. Okay, like string. String is thin, stringy is thin. So think of string, and then think stringy. Okay, and then springiness.
It's easier to say stringy, Lynn.
Only to you. Then we've got spring, springiness.
Springiness.
Yay, that's it. Not ingy, ingy. Okay, and then this is one that you're always doing. Above. Not ove. Above. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, above.
As above, so below. And then you almost got a smiley, and then you went and cocked it up. So it is suppressedly. It's like supposedly, suppressedly.
Suppressedly.
I wouldn't worry too much about it. You'll probably never see that word again. And then you get a smiley for working it out. It's not like grow, it's from to growl, so growled. Well done.
Suppressed is not surprised. Yeah.
Not surprised, no. Suppressed, and then suppressedly. Okay, not suppressedly. This is, I suppose, just to make it easier to say. But as I say, it's not one that you'd use very often as an adverb, to be honest. Okay. You made the same mistake again. You will find the same mistakes crop up again and again. You will find them, and you'll share them, and then you'll sort them out eventually. If it bothers you. If it doesn't bother you, keep going. Doesn't matter. I figured that you're here. You might as well get the corrections, and then it's up to you. I'll just keep correcting you.
Only when you said when you correct us, then we will sing. Oh yeah, you have corrected me that
before. Yes.
More times.
Well, you'll be glad to know. Times. Yeah, but you'll be glad to know, because I do so many corrections. I don't usually remember, unless it's for some reason funny. I don't usually remember if I've already corrected you, because I kind of forget these. Otherwise, my brain would just be full of corrections and I'd go insane. So I kind of forget. So don't worry about it. I won't remember. I'll never say, I've told you this before. You know, like teachers do at school. I used to hate that. Doesn't matter. You might have told me 1,000,000 times. If I'm still making the mistake, you've got to do something different. Anyway, tough guy. Now, you were here a bit late. So can I hear you? And can you hear me? That is the question.
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. And I can hear you. Woohoo! It's good, it's good. I put a little note in the Kitely thing about voice saying it's working like a charm now. So we're not using Skype anymore for this. It's great. I don't know what they did whilst we were on holiday over Christmas, but they must have done something. Okay, so are you at the right place? Tough guy. Oh, hang on, before I pass the mic over, any questions? April, you never have any questions when you do the reading. Is that because you're so busy concentrating on how to pronounce the words you don't think of anything?
I can mark that. If somebody else is reading, so I can put a notation. Oh, that is what I want to ask. But if I am reading, I have to concentrate on my reading. I can't multitasking at that moment.
Excellent, I love it. Fewer questions for me to answer. So that tells you, Shiny, that if April is reading, it's your job to ask any questions, okay?
Yeah, that's right. I'm Shiny.
Okay, tough guy. Are you at the right place? But it was Dave who suffered most of all.
Are you asking about the paragraph that the what's her name? Who was reading?
April.
April, yes. April.
What's her name? What's her name would do?
When she stopped reading.
Sorry, tough guy. What was your question?
No. I was asking you whether you were asking whether I knew where April stopped reading.
Yes, it's your turn now. It's your turn to read now, okay?
Okay. So shall I start?
Yes, whenever you're... Oh, dear. Okay. Oh, if I have to. Yeah, whenever you're ready, tough guy.
Okay. But it was Dave who suffered most of all. Something had gone wrong with him. He became more morose and irritable, and when camp was pitched, at once made his nest, where his driver fed him. Once out of the harness and down, he did not get on his feet again till harness up time in the morning. Sometimes in the traces, when jerked by a sudden stoppage of the sled, or by straining to start it, he would cry out with pain. The driver examined him, but could find nothing. All the drivers became interested in his case. They talked it over at mealtime and over their last pipes before going to bed. And one night they held a consultation. He was brought from his nest to the fire and was prodded till he cried out many times. Something was wrong inside, but they could locate no broken bones and could not make it out. By the time Caesar bar was reached, he was so weak that he was falling repeatedly in the traces. The Scotch half-breed called a halt and took him out of the team, making the next dog Saul legs fast to the sled. His intention was to rest Dave, letting him run free behind the sled. Sick as he was, Dave resented being taken out, grunting and growling while the traces were unfastened, and whimpering broken-heartedly when he saw Saul's legs in the position he had held and served so long. For the pride of trace and trail was his, and sick unto death, he could not bear that another dog should do his work. When the sled started, he floundered into the soft snow alongside the beaten trail, attacking Saul's legs with his teeth, rushing against him and trying to thrust him off into the soft snow on the other side, striving to leap inside his traces and get between him and the sled, and all the while whining and yelping and crying with grief and pain. The half-breed tried to drive him away with the whip, but he paid no heed to the stinging lash, and the man had not the heart to strike harder. Dave refused to run quietly on the trail behind the sled, where the going was easy, but continued to flounder alongside in the soft snow, where the going was almost difficult, till exhausted. Then he fell and lay where he fell, howling lugubriously as the long trail of sleds churned by. With the last remnant of his strength, he managed to stagger along behind till the train made another stop. When he floundered past these sleds to his to his own, where he stood alongside Saul Legs. His driver lingered a moment to get a light for his pipe from the man behind. Then he returned and started his dogs. They swung out on the trail with remarkable lack of exertion, turned their heads uneasily, and stopped in surprise. The driver was surprised too. The sled had not moved. He called his comrades to witness the sight. Dave had bitten through both of Saul Lake's traces and was standing directly in front of the sled in his proper place. He pleaded with his eyes to remain there. The driver was perplexed. His comrades talked of how a dog could break its hurt through being denied the work that killed it, and recalled instances they had known, where dogs, too old for the toil or injured, had died because they were cut out of the traces. Also, they held it a mercy, since Dave was to die anyway, that he should die in the traces, hurt easy and content. So he was harnessed in again, and proudly he pulled as of old, though more than once he cried out involuntarily from the bite of his inward hurt. Several times he fell down and was dragged in the traces, and once the sled ran upon him so that he limped thereafter in one of his hind legs. But he held out till camp was reached, when his driver made a place for him by the fire. Morning found him too weak to travel. At harness up time he tried to crawl to his driver. By convulsive efforts he got on his feet, staggered and fell. Then he wound his way forward slowly towards where the harness were being put on his mates. He would advance his forelegs and drag up his body with a sort of hitching movement. When he would advance his forelegs and hitch ahead again for a few more inches, his strength left him, and the last his mates saw of him, he lay gasping in the snow and yearning toward them. But they could hear him mournfully howling till they passed out of sight behind a belt of river timber. Here the train was halted. The Scotch half-breed slowly retraced his steps to the camp they had left. The man ceased talking. A revolver shot rang out. The man came back hurriedly. The whips snapped. The bells tinkled merrily. The sled churned along the trail, but Buck knew, and every dog knew, what had taken place behind the belt of river trees.
Well done. Okay. Oh, I've got tears in my eyes. Ah, so sad. So, very nicely read. Well done. And a couple of words for you. Some tough ones in this one, actually. Let's see. Yeah, morose. I know, Shiny. I'm more like this, honestly. I'm terrible at this kind of... I'm more like that. Ah, look. Oh, dear. Oh, that's not a cold. My cold is gone. Anyway. Very sad, but very well written. Yes, exactly. I mean, this is a classic book. This is a book that most young people read. Okay, so, tough. Let me pull myself together. Okay, first one, morose. Morose.
Morose.
Yeah, do you ever feel morose?
What do you mean by that?
If you feel like bad-tempered and
sad.
Not sad. It's more.
Ill temper.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, every time.
Yeah, I think we all feel morose sometimes, especially Monday morning. Okay, and irritable.
Irritable.
Not irritable, irritable. So let me give you
Irritable.
let me give you
Okay, irritable.
that's it. Irritable bowel syndrome. It's not a nice feeling. If you come to my house and you see my husband in the morning, don't speak to him because he's really irritable in the morning. It's best just to get him a cup of tea, not talk to him. And there's no table in it, okay? So it's irritable. It's a funny one. Okay, the next one, it's the old silent T. To fasten, to unfasten. So we say fast,
Okay.
but that's to do with speed. And fasten is to do with tying your shoelaces. So fasten, unfasten. Okay?
Unfasten. Okay.
Very good. Well done. The next one, really important. You need to work on this one. Heart, not hurt. Heart.
Okay. Hard.
Heart.
Hard.
Yeah, get the T at the end as well.
Hard.
You've got to get, because you've got
Okay,
hard, you've got hard, and you've got heart. So the beginning of the word is the same, but the ending, on the first one,
Okay.
you've got the soft D.
Hard.
Heart.
Hard.
Yes, get that T, otherwise it will sound like hard, and then people might misunderstand you. But you have a heart in your chest, and I hope your heart doesn't hurt, okay? He had a hard, let's give you a sentence. He had a hard heart, but it didn't hurt. Okay, he had a hard heart, but it didn't hurt. Try it.
He had a hard heart, but it didn't hurt.
Very good. Well done. That's a hard one. Okay, next one, and this is, I was so proud of you when you said this, because I was like, oh my goodness, I'd hate to have that in a German, bit of German reading, a word like that. Lugubriously. It's a bit like suppressedly. I doubt you'll ever hear it again, but let's go through it. Lugubriously. Try it.
Lugubriously.
Yeah, well done. What a tough word. Not something you'd use in everyday conversation, I'll be honest. Okay, the next one, which is a common word, and April will like this one because it is actually lingered, to linger.
Okay. Linger.
Yes, if you stay, you linger. He lingered. He stayed around a while, to linger. Okay. The next one, the hind legs. Hind.
Okay. Hind legs.
Yeah. To talk the hind legs off a donkey. Do you know what that means?
Yeah.
I know some people who can talk the hind legs off a donkey. It describes somebody who talks a lot, okay? Oh, he could talk the hind legs off a donkey. So the hind legs. And then harnesses, because it's plural. Okay, so you've got to get the us on the end. Harnesses. Try it.
Harnesses.
That's it.
Harnesses.
That's it. And then this one, it's just about the stress of the sentence. They talked it over at mealtime. So to talk something over, to talk about something. If you have a problem, it's good to talk it over with somebody. So try it. They talked it over at mealtime.
They talked it over at mealtime.
Very good. Well done. Okay, and that leaves us nicely at the end of the session at chapter 5. Love it. I love it when that happens. So we read a whole chapter. Well done, everybody. So much easier to find a place when when it's just, chapter 5, find that quite easily. Oh dear. So, any questions before we finish on that particular part? Yes, April,
Now
go on.
we have this one, the stinging, the stinging passion.
Yes, stinging.
This and not, but it is a stingy. No, stingy is
Stingy means mean. Yeah, stingy means a mean person, like Scrooge was stingy. Yeah. And sting is, exactly when the dog bites, when the bee stings. So stinging, from sting and stingy, there's no verb for that, okay? It's just an adjective. He was such a stingy man. Okay, April?
Okay, this one also. I saw that tough guy said howling, but it is howling,
It is howling, yes. You might have heard something I missed, so I will add that. So try it, tough guy. Howling. To howl. Ow.
Howling.
Howling. Yep. Well done. Okay. So not hauling. Hauling would be like they're pulling the. I'll check. Oh, you can check actually. Howling, not hauling. But you probably did hear it, April. As I say, sometimes I will miss a word because I'm already typing another word. So multitasking being, not my strongest point. So if you do spot something and you think somebody might have misread it, do point it out to me. Okay. Any other questions? Everybody happy? Cool. Are you enjoying the book? Is it a bit too sad? I mean, honestly. I'll try and find something more cheerful next time. Yeah, I know, Shiny.
I read it as a child, but in Polish I haven't immediately associated the title because in Polish the title is translated otherwise. The call of the blood, something like that.
Oh,
It's
okay,
very
interesting.
popular. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
it
but
is a
at the
classic.
time I didn't.
It is a classic book.
Yeah,
I
it's a
hate that when they
classic.
do that. They do it a lot with films in Germany. They'll completely change the films, like Bridget
Yeah,
Jones's.
too.
Yeah, Bridget
Yeah,
Jones's
they're
Diary.
right. It's no. Yeah.
Yeah, you've heard of the film Bridget Jones's Diary? Well, in Germany they changed it to Schokolade zum Frühstück, which means chocolate for breakfast. I mean, what?
But the same here, for example, the King's Speech with Colin Firth.
Uh-huh.
And here they translated it as becoming a king, so nothing to do
Oh.
with the original time. Yeah. With
That's
your
really
past
strange.
recognize.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds so boring as
for
well.
what purpose? I can't understand why, because it's not difficult to translate
No.
literally. So
And that's what I
why,
thought about
but-
Bridget Jones's Diary. It's something
Yeah.
that would perfectly make sense in German, and Schokolade zum Frühstück made no sense to me. In fact, I didn't even recognise it as the same film till I saw the poster, and then I was like, hang on, that's Bridget Jones's Diary. You don't change the
Exactly.
title there. Well done, April. And I agree, it is sad. Remember, when the film was made, it was in the days of happy endings, and nowadays, I think if they remade this film, it would be far more hard-hitting than it was the original. Absolutely, yeah. The film was very much modified to suit the taste of the day, I guess. Nobody wants to see dogs suffer but it was true. That's how those dogs were treated, and the kind of work they had to do. And yeah, even today, people kidnap dogs. There's a poster going around at the moment. Somebody's dog was stolen outside a supermarket, and it's just heartbreaking because you think, oh, what's happening to that poor dog now? So nothing's changed. I think, we're still horrible to animals, but not everybody. Leica has a lovely life.
Oh, but 2 days ago here, they found 4 baby pox. Not really baby, but what do you say?
I don't know.
The
You mean
children of-
puppies?
Children of the pox,
Children
of
of...
the pigs.
Oh,
I mean,
piglets.
Of the pigs. Yeah, piglets.
Piglets.
4 piglets in
Aw.
a river. In a river, they killed them, and apparently those piglets are pregnant.
Oh,
So
no.
I was thinking, not only people commit abortion, but also for pig, they do that also. Oh, it's terrible. 4 piglets.
Well, there's no excuse for that because, we have animal shelters and rescue places. That's just cruelty, that is. That's just laziness and cruelty. But, yeah, people can be very cruel, as we know. Okay, on that cheerful note, thanks, April. I'll stop streaming now. And... yeah, by all means, if you want to check on my pronunciation, if I did catch you out, you can have a listen. and tell me, no, you were wrong. And okay, so we're on chapter 4. Who has won to mastership? Have you all got the book open? And Eleanor, you are first to read. You were first here, first to speak to me, first to say hello. So if you would like to start reading whenever you're ready, unless anybody, has anybody got any questions first? I know it's been a week and a bit since we last read. It's been, 2 weeks since we last read, so. Okay, I can see green wavy lines, but I can't hear you, Eleanor. Can anybody hear Eleanor? Oh, there you are. Good.
You asked for a question, so I was waiting.
Oh, okay, that's all right. No, I could see, but it was strange because I could see some little wavy lines above your head as if you were speaking.
Yes, because I have turned my mic on.
Oh, okay. Well, there have been no questions forthcoming, so I can only presume everybody's happy. In which case, okay. Eleanor, when you're ready, just start reading.
When he was ready to put him in his old place in front of Dave. Buck retreated 2 or 3 steps. Francois followed him up, whereupon he again retreated. After some time of this, Francois threw down the club, thinking that Buck feared a thrashing. But Buck was in open revolt. He wanted not to escape a clubbing, but to have the leadership. It was his by right. He had earned it, and he would not be content with less. Perrault took a hand. Between them they ran him about for the better part of an hour. They threw clubs at him. He dodged. They cast him and his fathers and mothers before him, and all his seed to come after him down to the remotest generation, and every hair on his body and drop of blood in his veins. And he answered curse with snarl, and kept out of their reach. He did not try to run away, but retreated around and around the camp, advertising plainly that when his desire was met, he would come in and be good. Francois sat down and scratched his head. Perrault looked at his watch and swore. Time was flying, and they should have been on the trail an hour gone. Francois scratched his head again. He shook it and grinned sheepishly at the courier, who shrugged his shoulders in sign that they were beaten. Then Francois went up to where Solek stood and called to Buck. Buck laughed as dogs laugh, yet kept his distance. Francois unfastened Solek's traces and put him back in his old place. The team stood harnessed to the sled in an unbroken line, ready for the trail. There was no place for Buck save at the front. Once more Francois called, and once more Buck laughed and kept away. "Throw down the club," Perrault commanded. Francois complied, whereupon Buck trotted in, laughing triumphantly, and swung around into position at the head of the team. His traces were fastened, the sled broken up, and with both men running, they dashed out on the river trail. Highly as the dog driver had forevalued Buck, we say, I speak true when I say that Buck to Davis. This was Francois' speech next morning, when he discovered Spitz missing, and Buck covered with wounds. He drew him to the fire, and by its light pointed them out. "That Spitz fight like hell," said Perrault as he surveyed the gaping ribs and cuts. "And that Buck fight like to health," was Francois' answer. "And now we make good time. No more Spitz, no more trouble, sure." While Perrault packed the camp outfit and loaded the sled, the dog driver proceeded to harness the dogs. Buck trotted up to the place Spitz would have occupied as leader, but Francois, not noticing him, brought Solex to the coveted position. In his judgment, Solex was the best lead dog left. Buck sprang upon Solex in a fury, driving him back and standing in his place. Ah, Francois cried, slapping his thighs gleefully. Look at that Buck! Him kill that Spitz! Him think to take the job! Get away, Hook! He cried back, but Buck refused to budge. He took Buck by the scruff of the neck, and though the dog growled threateningly, dragged him to one side and replaced Solex. The elk dog did not like it, and showed plainly that he was afraid of Buck. Francois was obdurate, but when he turned his back again displaced Solex, who was not at all unwilling to go. Francois was angry. "Now, by God, I fix you!" he cried, coming back with a heavy club in his hand. Buck remembered the man in the red sweater and retreated slowly, nor did he attempt to charge in when Solex was once more brought forward, but he circled just beyond the range of the club, snarling with bitterness and rage, and while he circled, he watched the club so as to dodge it if thrown by Francois, for he was become wise in the way of clubs. The driver went about his work, and he called to Buck